So this is the second match where you faced off against Tran. This is the one you won 20-10. As always, I'll let the video play out before we really break it down. I will just say that there'll probably be a lot less breakdowns for this video just because I'm running out of time and, you know, there's a lot less mistakes, but still we're having trouble getting in. We're having trouble getting penetration, and we see some of the same patterns that we were doing before in terms of our circle steps. But let's go ahead and break down that pass sequence. Okay, just to start off, we're doing a better job of staying out of her hands. You know, she's going to be reaching and trying to tie up her hands, and she gets her right hand there, and we're able to get it free. But here's a situation where she's reaching. If you look at her body position, first and foremost, she's on her hips, and you can see her butt is low. She's out of position. Unfortunately, so are we. We're stretched out vertically. And as she reaches, obviously you want to drop down, but you don't want to go for a low shot here. You want to do a blast double because she's already on her heels, and she'll just kind of fall backwards. That was an opportunity there. Again, you know, you've already heard me saying, you know, in terms of our left and right circling, I really want to try to do pump fakes and get her off her game and stay out of these ties. I just think that we can be so much more explosive if we're going north and south and we're really keeping her off pace and on her heels. While we're being a little less automatic on the left-right shuffle, one thing that we're, you know, really not doing is changing our levels, you know, bobbing down, popping up, bobbing down, popping up. And of course, you know, pump faking back, pump faking forward, getting her on her heels. But we need to be changing our levels more. If you just watch her head, it stays pretty much at the same level. So here's a situation where, you know, she's standing straight up and the distance isn't that big, but the problem is we took too far of a step back with our right leg and we didn't step at all with our left foot. So just watch that knee as it just goes straight down without any penetration. And that's why that attempt didn't work. You know, I'm watching this video, I'm trying to figure out what was the difference between the first and second match. Was it us? Did we make adjustments? Did she kind of come out flat? I think we made a lot of adjustments, and the big adjustment we made is we started really being heavy on the hand. You can see the circle snap that you do a great job. The only thing is our footwork. We needed to be circling out to the right as we did it, and then stepping, and that would open up the lane for us to either shoot or just get into a front headlock. Obviously, you know, you did good to push her out. You should have recognized that maybe a second or two earlier, but good job there. So let's watch the next sequence. But, you know, that was one of the curiosities for me. I wanted to see the big difference. How do we go from losing 0-10 to winning 20-10? And I think the way we attacked the head was really helpful. Obviously, head on the outside, but, you know, you can see a lot of a difference in her body language. By the way, that was 4. I'll show it in slow motion. Her hips broke. There was exposure. I'm upset about it. So when we break down this next video, you're going to start to see the differences between that first match and the second match. First big one is, hey, we're beating her back to center. I would have liked to have, you know, a little bit more of a hurry to it, you know, just to send that message. But look, we're beating her back to center, and that shows me, you know, she fell out of the championship bracket. You know, her ego's a little hurt. She's still tying us up on her hands, and, you know, we're doing a much better job, though, much better job of keeping our hands free. Again, you know, I've already kind of said what I wanted to say in terms of circling and really getting penetration forward and backwards and trying to shift her weight. Here's again another circle C snap attempt. This one doesn't really work. It's just, like I said, a matter of that footwork. Right leg steps back as you do it, left foot in. We just weren't able to go heavy on the head there, but it helps sets up this fireman carry because now we're in better position and we've got that collar tie. So this fireman carry attempt, it could have been improved. Okay, so our trail leg, or right leg, is just too far back. Now, if you look at our left leg, we really didn't step. And we needed to take more of a penetration step, and we needed to take a penetration step closer to her left leg. And you're going to see the result here. The result is that her weight is across our back as opposed to being on our shoulders. Now, if you just look at the positional difference, you'll notice just in that rotation when she's on her shoulders, her right hip is broken up and she's already starting to fall. But because she's across your back, it's more weight, and now you have to change off. And you do a great job. You bring your right leg up. On cue, there we go. And you change off. Now the only small adjustment here is we ended up putting our right knee back down. You can see it there. It's back down on the mat, and that requires us to take an extra step, which you do, and you're able to finish this, and you do it well. And I think her hips are broken. Watch her left leg; it flips over her right. Boom. I think that's exposure. Should have been 4. I'm still bitter about it, but we're doing a much better job of getting to our offense. I think the key so far has been our left hand really clubbing and on being on that collar and keeping her close, and also just body language. When we're beating her to center, or we're really prioritizing getting into her offense instead of letting her just kind of come at us. And we did a great job of staying out of her hands. So let's take a look at the next sequence. We'll let it play out. Look, I'm going to use this opportunity again to say, for the last year and a half, I've really been pressing you, and I'm not trying to harp. I'm just saying I think we could have a lot more success from neutral if we're going north-south, in-out, pump fake, changing our level. I would like to see, Tran on her heels. I'd like to see her uncomfortable. We're doing a much better job avoiding those tie-ups, or at least the hand control. And our positioning's a lot better. And I really think, again, I'm going to say it, the collar tie has been really the difference between last match and this match. And even though you shot really far out here, by the way, we'll break that down later, we had a little bit better of a penetration step, of course, throwing that leg in. I'm going to break that down too. So we'll go through all these things coming up. But you did a good job of getting that leg in on the transition. So let's go back through that sequence. I said earlier, I'm trying to figure out what did we change between the first and second match, and what did she change? And, even though she's coming at you here, it's all fakes. And she's really backed off. And she's really, I guess, waiting for you to take a single leg attempt. She's almost leaving that right leg. So we did a really good job of really not taking the bait, even though I think we would have finished on the right leg. And, we're not giving her the tie-up that she wants. And right now, winning 3-0, it's okay to be a little patient. I just want to press. There you go. You're doing good on the collar. Also, if we can compare our collar tie position between the two matches, you're going to see you have could be better, but you have your feet under you more, as opposed to the orange lines from like last match. I actually transposed it, but you can see how far your leg's back, so that when she goes to snap you here, while we get snapped a little bit, it's nothing like last match, and that's because we're doing a better job of having our hips underneath us, especially in that collar tie. Speaking of the collar tie, MVP of the match. Right here, we're in good position on the collar tie. We're able to block with the forearm, stops her shot, even though our leg was pretty close. Leila, right here, she's on both knees. She's dead to rights. All we got to do is wrap our left arm around the body. If you want to, you can body lock with your right hand, just bowl her over. Lame animation coming up. But, when she's down, both knees right there in that position, and all you need to do is just take your left arm and wrap it around the body and just run her over. It's not about technique. Just run her over. You take a shot from really far out here. And part of the reason it works is because she's stepping forward with her left leg, but your lead leg really needs to step a foot to a foot and a half closer. But you timed it perfectly because she's stepping with her left leg right as you shoot. So right leg up, a little high on the left hand, walk to your left. That might have been 4 and 2. So I'm slowing it back down here so we can kind of see what's going on with the leg. What happens is, you definitely need to stay under the arms. You happen to stay under the arm on the same side that you're trying to drape the leg across. As soon as you know the leg's across, either in the slot or, across the waist, we've got to switch our anchor. We've got to make our right hand the anchor and our left hand the power half. I think that comes pretty obvious. The only other thing is your right leg needs to come all the way around, which it just did. This is just because the video froze. I was going, what did I freeze there? I couldn't remember. You did a good job on the legs. I truly believe one of these days we're going to really catch somebody in transition on those legs and really score a lot of points, whether it's in freestyle, college. Next sequence, we're up 7-0. Minute left in the first period. Let's get a 4-point move. Let's press. Let's advance. Let's end the match. If I told you the 7-0 match goes into the second period and becomes an 8-8 match, where then the referee gives 4 points and we're now down 12-8. Of course, that call was reversed and we were up 12-8, but 7-0 match, we stopped pressing. You did a good job coming around getting the reversal, but you got a minute left in the period when this started. Finish the match, get a 4-point move. That was the last thing we scored, so we are definitely capable. We need to be attacking. Your minute left. Let's finish the match. Instead, we yield the center. Let's keep the center. Let's understand that we're 3 points away, a push out and a takedown. But let's not yield the center to our opponent. So we do a really good job of staying out of her tie. At the same time, we're executing our tie. And first and foremost, left-hand collar tie. That's been the MVP, the big difference between the last match and this match. Having that collar and then going for the carry. Now, here's the situation where we find ourselves on short offense, and situationally speaking, we should go for that shuck. Even if our backhand is our main game, but our right hand's in position, all we want to do is get a rotating, act like we're going for a right leg, hard shuck, backhand with the left hand, and then spin around to the right. So the shuck is built for that type of situation. Instead, we're trying to set up a reshot, which is fine, but we end up going for a fireman carry and we don't step deep enough and we step far from the legs, so the weight's across our back instead of being on our shoulders. And if she was on her shoulders, you would see that she would be rotating towards the mat and her right leg would be up, so it's easier to finish in that dump. Actually, let's watch it again. I want you to watch your footwork, so keep an eye on your left leg and let's watch where it steps. You see that there's really no penetration. You just lift that leg up and you don't really step, and you can see how far away from the leg you end up being. And that's why we end up with all that weight across our back. And now we were too slow to change off, and that's key. In the situation we worked in the room, she's trying to lift us over. We really need to prioritize chopping that far leg with our left hand and then circling to our right. So really we needed to change off and really chop, really pull that in, because that takes away her ability to lift us over and dump. But you do a really good job of finishing the motion and finishing the move. Obviously this is freestyle, you only get 1 point, but if this is folk style, that's the 3-point takedown. So it's good that you kept moving your feet in that situation. So on to the next sequence. Again, there's only 20 seconds left in the period. But there's still, time to hit a 4-point move, right? 4-point move ends the match. I still would love to see you press. And you do some really great things here in this last 20 seconds. We'll break it down. But you do a good job of staying out of her ties. You do a good job of stopping her offense. And you do a really, really good job with only a few seconds left right there. And that's the type of pump fake, forward and back, north and south, that are really going to open up our offense. So let's go ahead and break this down. First and foremost, we really need to focus on body language. Okay, there's 22 seconds left, sure, but look at her positioning, okay? She's slow to get up. Maybe she tweaks something. I don't know what she's doing, but she's out of position. Unfortunately, our hands are on her hips. Don't give her a break. Let's start pressing. Let's start going after her. Let's try to jump scare her like a horror movie, but let's not give her an opportunity, like you just saw, for her to shake it out and reset. But once again, just talking about the difference between the first and second match, it's really been about us maintaining good collar tie position. That's been the MVP. Working our carry. Once we have the collar tie established, that's been the difference between this match and the last match with Tran. But even though there's only, 15 seconds left, we should be pressing. And you do something amazing here. And this is what I've been really wanting to see from you, which is we start establishing our pump fake. So right here, look, you get her completely flailing out of position, moving backwards, we can drop our level and shoot. And just imagine if you really started doing these a lot more, pump fake back forward, breaking the rhythm, and also most importantly, changing our level, dropping, raising, giving her different looks and just keeping her uncomfortable. And that's the biggest stylistic change I'd really like to see from you, as opposed to just side shuffling, is really having that north and south pattern. So we come out of the break, we're up by 6. It's easy to say, but a 4-point move obviously ends the match. And you can tell her coach really told her, hey, we got to turn it up. And you know, you're not seeing the same level of offense that you had. There's not really any reshots. We're being too defensive. And then we get caught for, I think, is it 2 or 3 turns here? I think it's just 2. And we'll break it down, but all of a sudden we got an 8-8 match. So a problem that emerged on your shot defense, at least for the second period, is we started, instead of posting off of our collar on our left, we were going over the arm. You can see it on the left arm being over. And we get away with it here, but obviously we'd rather be posting and pushing off. You do a great job of getting your hips back here. But that same situation is going to come up again. I think you just came out from the break with the mentality that you needed to protect the lead. And I just think we really needed to finish the match. We're, like I said, 4 points away. Instead, we're side shuffling. We really needed to press. And we gave her a lot of opportunities to get in. And she was much more aggressive. Here's that follow-up on our hands being passed. You can see the right hand kind of goes over. Same with the left. Instead of just blocking and using that left collar to post off, this time it kind of comes back to bite us. And we have a situation that's going to play out that's near identical to the first match. You have the whizzer in place with the left hand, and very similar to the first match, I'll put them side by side. We had an opportunity to whizzer hard down with the left arm and, shin whizzer and rotate our hips and slide our leg out. And I think we bailed on it. Now, coming out of this one, though, we end up giving up a lot of exposure. And I think the reason is because we started kind of creeping towards the left, and we needed to go to the right and open our hips to face her. And if you look at the first match and compare it to what we did in the second match, you can kind of see the reason that we were getting turned there. Even though you're kind of coming up here and you're trying to creep, I think on this particular second turn, you just get your left arm and left shoulder trapped underneath. Obviously, you want to bring that up, but I think that's why we got caught on this second set of exposure. But I think the moral of the story here is we came out of the break just more worried about protecting the lead and remembering that first match and thinking, oh man, I was down 10-0 in the first match. Now I'm up by 6. Let me protect it. And I think we needed to be out there with the mindset to finish the match. So the next sequence is that 4-point double, the one that got reviewed. And I think you did a good job. She doesn't get you to change directions. The way she brings you back is the way you've been driving the whole time. So the call is correct. I do want to point out 2 different things here. So you do a really good job of noticing, I think, of noticing one of her patterns. And that is she is reaching with her right arm and then kind of stepping with her right leg after. So I think you read that, because here she goes. She reaches with her right arm, steps with her right leg, and here's our double. Now, here's kind of an interesting finish that we haven't worked. If we can slide our left knee in, okay, if we drive forward with our head, if we whip down with our hands and slide our legs back like as a sprawl, that's sorry for the lame animation, we can whip her down. It's a whip down finish, and you'd still get 4 off of it. So that's something that maybe we can work. But overall, you did a really good job of keeping your hands on the legs and keeping your direction, and that's why you got the 4. So on to the next sequence. So after what was probably a 4 or 5 minute break, you're coming out a little bit more aggressive with hands, but we're still almost just looking to reshot or counter. Here you had an opportunity almost for a shuck, but again, you come back up and hit that carry, kind of similar to before. In fact, it's almost the same exchange. And also, again, we have that kind of similar problem where we're not stepping deep enough with our left leg, and we're also stepping too far away from her left leg so that the weight's across our back. So now we do a really good job of being aggressive with our hands. I would like to see you kind of come in more, but we get into a situation, front headlock, short offense, where if ever there was a time for a shuck. So right here, right hand transitions to the chin. We start circling to the left, trying for the leg. We plant our legs, and then we shuck. Instead, this match you've been trying to reshot off of it, but the higher percentage is that shuck. So here we go for another carry, but we don't get any penetration with the left leg. The left leg doesn't move, and we need to step in and most importantly towards her left leg so that we don't get the weight draped on our back, which is what happens. But we do a good job of circling and finishing almost as if it was like a barrel roll where we're just kind of bullying our way through. So yeah, that the point there is I think we've had a couple opportunities where we should be going for a shuck, but instead we're looking at those opportunities for reshots. On to the next sequence, where I think really the issue here is that you're looking at the score at 14-8, and there's a minute and a half, a little bit more than a minute and a half to go, and you're just thinking, let me close it down, let me make sure I hold on. But the way I would be looking at it is we're up by 6, a 4-point move, which we've already scored, ends the match. And we just kind of invite her in by being too passive. And there's this exchange here, which we'll break it down later, where we end up giving up the points, but do a good job of keeping our legs spread and not giving up any exposure. But like I said, I think that our perspective needs to be, hey, let's close this match out. And I get it. You got, a 6-point lead at this point, a minute and 50. You think maybe I can close this out. Let me be cautious and conservative. But against somebody like Tran, who keeps holding the center of the mat, we need to really get her on her heels, okay? Because she's not retreating. So we need to be going north and south, pump fake, step back, pump fake, step back, shot, And so what I mean by that, pump fake, step back, pump fake, step back, shot. And, all the while changing our level, down, up, down, and really making her uncomfortable because she is not yielding the center of the mat. Instead, I think that, 6-point lead, but now we've kind of put the match in her hands in the sense that she's down by 6, so we know she's coming. She ends up getting in on us, and if you look at your right hand here, you see that you grab kind of below the elbow. It would be great if somehow we could come underhook, because in this particular situation, we get her to crash her hip, and while she does have our left leg trap underneath it, you can't really see, but if we can punch that underhook through and hip heist and circle, we're going to at least get exposure, if not get, the takedown, or even put her on her back. And I'm just going to freeze frame it. Coming up here, we got our left arm trapped, and obviously would rather be in a whizzer, but I think of all the times for these two matches that she's scored on us from neutral, it's been that same attack and the same result in terms of us really not either getting to the whizzer or not doing enough with it. So I've run out of time, unfortunately, so I'm just going to watch the rest of the video with you and comment. So great, right here, shuck. And you see what I'm saying, so I forgot that you had done that. So that's perfect. That's exactly what I think we should have been doing before, and I think you picked up on that. And I think we get one more similar takedown. The only thing I'm going to say is the remainder of our offense is short offense. She's getting desperate with 44 seconds left, so we've got to go behind here. Little backhand, go behind. And it's great. Everything you're doing here is great, and you're capitalizing off the fact that time's running out, and she's the one that has to create the situations. Having said that, my feelings, like our defense should be our offense. And here's again where we've been in trouble, but we do a good job of almost coming down to the egg roll, and then we just are able to kind of backhand and come around.